Welcome to Sales for Nerds. I'm your host and chief nerd, Ruben Swartz. If you started a business because you love serving clients but realized you didn't like the sales and marketing aspect of running that business so much, this is the podcast for you. Sales and marketing doesn't have to suck. It can actually be a lot of fun. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to connect instead of network, teach instead of market, help instead of sell, so you can keep serving people even while you're building your pipeline and growing your business. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited to have with me Steve Buzogany. He is the owner of appreciationadvocate.com, and he is all about treating your customers and partners well so you get more business and more referrals. Steve, thanks for coming on Sales for Nerds. What do you have in your glass?
Oh, thank you for having me. This is the best thing ever because I get to drink on the show, which is I got UFO white American style white ale, which orange peel. It's kind of like a Blue Moon. It's like a fancy Blue Moon, I guess.
Now
So
the Blue
big
Moon's
fan.
all corporate. You got to find a new indie like Blue Moon style beer.
I don't know. I just went and bought the store what my wife told me to get. That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. You can follow instructions. You're ahead of me.
Yeah.
I've got
Yes, my head is still intact.
Yeah, there you go. I've got a glass of Par Maria. It's a Syrah Petit Verdot blend from Santa Barbara County. And if you were just listening to the episode with Wayne Mullins, that might sound familiar. It's because I can't, or I shouldn't do a whole bottle in one episode. So we're finishing off that here. And I think it's a nice tie-in, in fact, thematically from some of the stuff he was talking about, because one of the stories he told was about how he would show up with boxes of donuts for people. And lo and behold, a lot of these folks would go on to become customers. So anyway, Steve, great to have you on board. Steve had just an amazing odyssey just to get in front of the microphone today that I won't make him go into if he doesn't want to, but let's just say we both understand some of the ups and downs of fatherhood. And
Yes,
I'm just
for
happy
newborns.
that you made it.
Yes.
Tell us how you
Episode
got...
No, I was going to say the Code Brown. Long story short.
Code Brown. There we go. This involves the baby, not Steve. Just for everyone listening.
Not yet. Not me
not
yet.
yet. Let's rewind the clock and tell people, how did you get to this place?
I started with as a real estate agent, and a mentor of mine said, "Hey, Steve, you got to stop working so hard. You're working for the transaction, and you're working for the deal, but work for the relationship. It will be a lot easier. You don't have to work as hard. You won't have to close. The closings will be easy. You don't have to give them the sales pitch." And I was like, "Okay, that makes a lot of sense." And so what happened is I'm more of an introvert anyway. I am not like my best friend can call anybody and be like, "Hey, what's going on, man? How you been? I haven't talked to you in a while." He's like, "Oh, hey, Luke, how are you?" Like when I call, it's like, "Hey, man, just calling to say hi." They're like, "Why?" And I'm just like, I just want to see how you're doing. They're like, "Okay, what do you really want?" And then it's like, "So do you know anyone buying a house?" Like that was such an awkward, terrible conversation. And I hated it and made me feel disgusting. Like I needed a shower afterwards. So basically I needed a way to basically make it that an organic conversation and a more, easier conversation to have. So that's when I started giving gifts to my clients. Instead, I sent the gift ahead of time, and then I called behind the gift and said, "Hey, I just wanted to touch base with you guys. How you guys doing? I wanted to make sure that you got the gift of appreciation I sent you. I wanted to let you guys know how much I appreciate you in my life." And that was such an easier conversation because I would never send it during the holidays because it would just fit in with everything else. They would stand out and they would be like, and it was a good gift. So they were always like, "Oh my God, that was so cool. So unexpected." It's like, no one's ever got something nice like this for whatever reason I sent it for. And then because they know I'm a small business owner, me particular real estate, but if you were an HVAC lawyer, accountant, whatever, they would still ask, "How's business?" Eventually they're going to get to that question. And then that becomes a more organic conversation. "Oh, okay. Well, business is good. Real estate's been fantastic. I had 10 closings last month, whatever. How are you guys? I heard you guys are having a kid. You need a bigger house."
Right.
Whatever, that obviously that wasn't always that direct, but basically you can work your conversations in that way. And it was a lot easier and more organic. And to be honest with you, it was more fun. It was like what we're doing right now, having beers. And, I had several text messages where we keep, "Steve, I got your gift and, come on over. Let's get the families together. Let's go out to the brewery." And it's like, you get the FaceTime and everything. It's like, it's awesome.
Yeah, I think that point about it being a lot more fun is interesting too. And as a fellow introvert, a lot of that networking and glad handling and shaking hands and all that seemed very, very unappealing. So how did you decide what gifts to send, what cadence, how to put this all together? Did your mentor tell you how to do all this, or did you kind of figure it out?
Well, so I have like a Mount Rushmore of 4 men that are my mentors, and one of them taught me to be relational. The second one, it taught me the gifting, which John Rowland was the guy with the gifting. Brian Buffini was the guy with the basically overall life coach. So that's where I learned it with John Rowland. And then what I was doing in real estate is a lot of people started asking me, what are you doing with your, like, how are you doing this? How are you getting so many referrals? You're operating at 73% referral. Like, what are you doing? And you're taking a month or two off every year. Like, what the heck? And I'm just like, well, I'm doing gifts. And then they're like, well, I don't have time for that. Well, I don't have time for that. Every time I told someone, I don't have time for that. So that's why I do appreciation advocate now, because that's now I do it for small businesses so they can have the time. So now they just make a phone call. Hey, Steve, this is what I want to do for my best people this quarter. Okay, cool. No problem. We'll take care of it. Done. Like, and it's handled for the next 90 days. Like, that's how my business came into play. So I kind of fell into it based on what I was doing. Now I just do it for other people.
Got it. So you listened to people when they were complaining about not having time to copy, and you thought I could help them do that.
There's a market there.
Right. Very, very perceptive. Good job. Now, I don't want to undercut your business, but there's a certain irony, because these people are so busy running around chasing business because they don't have time to slow down and appreciate their clients. So they're not getting referrals, right?
Yeah. So that the problem with that is that a lot of people would prefer to go chase cold leads rather than people who are already warm and hot to them. So like when you put when you boil water on the pot, on the range, you don't put cold water in a pan and then put it right on the range. You wait for it to get hot first, and then you put the hot water on the range so you don't have to wait as long. Like, work with the hot water. In your database. Don't work with the cold water. Why would you want to go in? Like, the average listing appointment for a real estate agent is like 60 minutes. Why would you want to go in there and pitch a hard pitch for an hour when you could? My average listing appointment was 26 minutes. I was going less than half the time. I was more efficient and it was easier work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of difference I'm talking about here.
Well, and again, there's two people here who don't really like picking up the phone and trying to sell someone or close someone. I'm guessing the majority of listeners are in that boat too. Why do I want to ramp up the degree of difficulty on my sales efforts, right? This isn't the Olympics where you get bonus points for harder stuff. Like, the last thing I want is to make things harder. Why don't I talk to people who already want to hear from me? Yes. Versus trying to convince somebody that they should want to hear from me and give me a bunch of their time.
Yeah, it's the 80-20 rule too. So like your top 20% are going to be most responsible for the 80% of your income. So why don't you just, I didn't gift all 234 of my A+ clients or my A clients. I had my A+ clients, and those are the people that got the gifts. So I focused on 20 to 40 people, not all 233 or whatever it was. So that's that. So you focus on the top 20%, because when those top 20%, when they duplicate, meaning when they give you a referral, you're going to get another A+ client, which is all I want. I don't want another B or another C. I want more A+. So I focus all my time on them. And if I can touch all of them in one quarter, then I'll move to the B's and C's. But A+ are going to get fed first. And then when they're done, then I'm going to move to the B's and C's.
And I think this is another way of saying something that we talk about a lot on the podcast, like getting really clear about who your ideal client is. And that ideal client is often in the room with other ideal clients versus the B's and C's, or however you want to refer to them. People you could help, people you could even make money helping, but are far from ideal. And if you could get, for the same energy and effort, get an ideal client or a not ideal client, again, which one would you rather have? So yeah, I think philosophically it's awesome. Now, how did you? I want to get into appreciation advocate in a second, but at the very beginning, when you first started sending out gifts to your real estate folks, what did you send them?
So the first thing I sent, so I started out kind of cheesy, actually. And this is, the how I learned the art of gift giving, because I started with like cheap gifts, and then I started to learn, like I gave, what was the first time I went around it, I did like little bottles of like vodka around the holidays, which is kind of like silly. But the only thing I didn't like about that was that it didn't make a long-term impression. It made one impression, and then the problem was it was alcohol. So people, like, what if I had clients that I just didn't know they didn't drink, or if they had an alcoholic parent or something like that? Right. So it was just like, that was probably bad. Other times I bought like an ice cream scooper, and obviously I call it, what we do here at Appreciation Advocates, we call it attacking the kitchen. I always got people things that were in the kitchen because I always wanted them, whenever they picked up that item, they would think of me. So I got them ice cream scoopers because a lot of people actually have an ice cream scooper. Or I got pizza cutters. Like a lot of people didn't have that. That wasn't like the super most common thing. Then I started to step it up a little bit. I'm like, okay, let's make some real big impacts. And then I started buying like Cutco, like actual, like with engraved names on the side. And then I got to like custom speakers, like those little pill speakers that people bring to the beach with them to play music, or when they take them camping or riding bikes. Like I got those things custom with their names engraved on it. What else did I do? All kinds of, I have, actually, you would like this too. You appreciate this. I used to give people these things. These are called cork pops. You ever hear these?
No.
So this is awesome. So like you basically, it's a CO2 tank right here.
Oh, okay.
There's a needle in here. You put that on the wine bottle and you push this and it pulls off the cap of the bottle of wine. And like you can uncork a bottle of wine in like a quarter of a second. So basically just like a little bit, this thing's like a show. So like I have this one woman, I gave this to her and she was like, Steve, I love the cork pop. It's amazing. I make it a show every time I open a bottle of wine. Whenever my friends come over, I tell them all about how you gave this to me. And I'm just like, this is $17 or 12. I can't remember. It's less than $20. So like, you don't have to go crazy with these gifts, but the impact that they make, though, especially when they're personalized, like with their names on it and stuff like that, it makes a massive difference because they can't just go on Amazon and buy that stuff. It's stuff that you have to go out of their way to get, and it's not swag, it's not SWAG, like stuff we all get, or it's a different S word, but
right. So you said something interesting that I want to call out. You sent them stuff with their name, not your name.
No, because that's the difference there is promotion versus gift. Right. Anything that's a promotion is about the giver. Anything that's a gift is about the receiver. So if I sent them a bunch of stuff that said like, at the time, Philly's real estate agent on it or appreciation advocate on it, that's a promotional item. That's swag.
And I get tons of that from realtors. And
yeah,
it all goes in the trash. Yeah.
Yeah. Throw it out, gets regifted, or it goes into Goodwill, whatever, depending on the item. But if it shows up, like I had sent Cutco scissors to my top 25 people and it had their name engraved on the side of it. And they were like, whoa, like they sent me pictures of themselves with holding the scissors, like coolest gift ever. Thank you, Steve. And I'm like, yeah, like you're not throwing that thing out. So that there's a major difference.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what people should be thinking about. I think hopefully you get the idea of, hey, one is just a nice thing to do to show appreciation. Like I'm guessing that you feel good doing this. It isn't just that there's a good ROI, though that helps too. But how should folks think about putting together some kind of program to show appreciation for their customers, partners, advisors, whomever it might be?
Sure. So one of the things that I would tell people is like, there's two things here. One, I'll tell you how you budget for this. And then two, I'll tell you the 6 things you need to make a good gift. So the 6 things you need to be, the focus has to be on the client or the gift. That's not on you, or else it's a promotion. Then it has to be a high quality item, not like something cheap you throw away or something that everybody can buy on Amazon. It's got to be personalized. If you can't get their name engraved on it, whatever, it's fine. You can still, like, maybe it's their favorite color or something else, a painting of them, whatever. It's got to be personalized to them, unique to them. It's got to have deep emotional impact because people make decisions emotionally and then they justify logically. It has to have staying power. So it's got to be, this kind of goes hand in hand with high quality, meaning it's people see it, they'll use it. It's practical. It has, significant use. And then lastly, let's not forget the basics, like build a connection. It's got to show up with a personal note or a video or something that shows that you actually didn't just have someone else do this. You did it yourself. Those are the 6 things that really make that all great gifts have. And then when you want to budget this, if you want to build a plan around this, the budget, I would say you want to spend 5 to 10% of whatever that client is worth to you for the year. So if you have a $50,000 client, then you should be spending $2,500 to $5,000 on that client over the course of the year. So you basically get about a couple $100 a month to spend on that client, which you can do a ton with. That's just a budget. You don't have to hit the budget. You might have a budget of $200 a month. You could easily make a fantastic impact for 100 or 125 or 60.
So I'm guessing there's a bunch of folks listening today who, if you're not going into Mimiran to look at your referral report, have some idea that there is a handful of people, maybe there's one person, there's some inner circle of people who are giving them mid 5 to 6 figures of business every year. What kind of stuff should we be thinking about at $200 a month? And do we want to do it every month? Do we do it quarterly? Do we do it annually?
Yeah, it's best to do. I would tell you do go less on the gifts. You don't, because if you do it every month, it's a little too much and it kind of eliminates the significance of it. Okay. We personally, for our clients, we won't do more than 4 a year, so basically quarterly. But most of the clients we work with, it's like between 2 and 4. So they do like 2 out of this world high end gifts, be like, wow, like mind blowing gifts, or they'll just do 4 quarterly gifts. They're not as mind blowing, but they're still awesome gifts. Like we've seen people do like a set of cut knives. They'll send the block and with like one knife, and then like every quarter they'll send them another knife to fit into the block, and it's like an ongoing, building of a thing. That's a pretty cool thing. All kinds of different stuff. That's basically as much as I can think of. There's people like we've had people do watercolor paintings of people's pets. Dude, you start loving on people's pets, it is a different game, man. Like people love their pets more than they love their kids. So like, you get a custom dog bowl made, they're gonna love you forever. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
I'm sitting here looking over at my dog napping on my chair.
Yeah, mine are right here. Both all big behemoths, the big Bernese Mountain Dogs that I have.
So something that's interesting that you're talking about, that I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. You're not talking about, hey, here's a restaurant gift card, or here's tickets to the sporting event, ephemeral things. You're talking about, here's something that you're going to have around the house for years.
Correct. Yeah. So actually, I did bring this with me today. If you want, I can go through I have a list of 5 or 6 items here that are all examples of bad gifts. If you want me to kind of go through
Please, them. Let's look at bad gifts. Let's save some people some trouble, right?
Okay, sure. So basically the first one I have on here is thank you email. It's like a lot of people think this is kind of like somewhat of a gift, but they're properly saying thank you. A thank you email is just basically the last step of a purchase transaction. It's not an actual gesture, so don't think that. Bottles of champagne, food items, they're bad because they make an impression, but it's only one impression. And your job is to stay top of mind. You can't stay top of mind with one impression. That's very important to remember. And that goes for events and experiences too. So like you were saying, like a ball game, or if you took someone to the Super Bowl, like even that is only one impression. It's a $6,000 impression. No one's going to pay for that. You know what I mean? So like 2 weeks later, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I was at the Super Bowl, but like, all right, life goes on. So it's a one-time thing. And same flowers, edible arrangements. They last for like a little longer, like a week, and then they die. And I got, swag bags, promo items, gift cards. So gift cards are flat out lazy gifts that suggest that you don't even care or have time to really put any effort in. That will be very much communicated to the recipient. And then swag, obviously, like we said, stands for stuff we all get. So swag and promo items are always about the giver. So they're obviously no. So that's my list.
Now, could you, is it good, bad, whatever, to include a swag item along with your real gift?
No, never do that, because it's not about you. Because swag shouldn't. It does pollute it, because now it's a manipulation.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So like it should be, you're going to get the most bang for your buck when you do something for someone else that has no strings attached. Be like, hey, you know what? I value you as a person. I know these little details about you, and I gifted you based on those little details. I went out of my way to execute on those details, and I'm not asking for anything in return. So like, think about it this way, Ruben. Like the last time you had something radically nice happen to you, but you weren't expecting it, how long did it take you to tell someone about it?
Gosh, that's a good question that I was totally not prepared to answer.
I have
no idea.
Okay. Well, so, all right. So for example, I was walking home from the park recently with my son, and some random guy came up to me with a brand new bag of sports hats for my son. He goes, hey man, it's really cold out. Your son looks cold. You want a hat? I'm like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. He's like, no, it's new, brand new, tag still on and everything. Gives it to my son and just walks off. Total stranger. And this is a Dick's Sporting Goods. Like it's not a cheap store. So I'm like, dude, within 25 minutes, I called my wife. I was like, you are not going to believe what just happened. I just got a super nice guy. I don't even know why I deserve this. The super nice guy just gave Reese, my son, a hat for no reason at all. And like, didn't ask for anything. It didn't, nothing. Brand new, tag was still on and everything. My wife's like, wow, that's like the nicest thing ever. So long story short, when people get things that are done extremely radically nice for them, and they're totally random, they tell people right away, you're never going to believe what just happened.
Now, I've got an interesting question based on the whole premise of this podcast, right? As I have my wine, could you, in theory, especially if you've got one of these high-end budgets, give someone a bottle of wine that they're going to save for years until a special occasion, and look at it periodically, or stick it somewhere and have fond memories of it, versus I'm going to open this on Tuesday night?
Maybe I wouldn't do that still, even if it is a high-end bottle, even if it was an $1,800 bottle, I still wouldn't do it. I would do something else. I would give them something that would help them enjoy the wine, like a custom, like maybe get one of those cork pops engraved with their name on it, or I'd get a certain kind of, hey, look here, or if you're going to give the bottle of wine that's $1,800 or whatever, give them a special glass engraved with their name on it. And this, like, because even when the bottle's gone, the glass stays. Like, right, this glass is only for this kind of wine, and it's Ruben's special wine drinking glass. And that way, even after you've done the bottle, the impression still remains. Like, hey, this is my expert, super awesome wine glass, and nobody ever touched this. Because you're going to protect that glass from your kids, from your wife, from your pets. Nobody touches that glass because it's your super, super special wine glass. You know what I mean? So
even if you're going to give them a special bottle, you might as well throw in some glass, some number of glasses, at least two, I imagine.
Anything, something that stays beyond the glass, something that lives beyond the wine, something that makes the impression, that stays visible, that stays useful, that has emotional impact. That because your job is to stay top of mind. Remember that. So if you're not making impressions, you're not top of mind. Your subconscious mind.
So how do we make sure that we're sending something that is relevant to the person? We already talked about, well, some people might not like wine. They hate wine. They hate alcohol, or they already have like super high-end chef's knives. They don't want Cutco knives, etc. Like, how do we know enough to give the right gift to the right person?
Sure. And that's where it comes into play, where I was telling you, focus on the top 20% versus, the 80-20 rule. That top 20%, those are the people that you know the best. Those are the people that know you the best. Those are the people that have bought into you and your business the hardest. So those are the people you typically have the closest relationships with. And that's why you typically know more about those people than you do the other 80%. So that's why it's really important to get to those, like, what to get those people. Typically, it's not usually typical a question usually. Now, if it is a question, then they're probably not in your 20%. They should be maybe a little bit lower, because you want to be gifting to people that you know an intimate amount of information, and they know a lot about you, and they have bought hard into you. Otherwise, they're not in your 20%.
And this makes sense, perfect sense. And if you're listening and you're like, but I don't know whether my best referral person drinks wine or not, I don't know whether they like to cook and have nice knives or whatever the thing is, like, maybe it's time to have more conversations with them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's an excuse to call them. Like, hey, talk to me. Hey, what's your, like, I didn't know my top 25. I didn't know any of their best colors. So I called them. I said, what's your favorite color? They're like, why are you asking, Steve? I'm like, oh, I'm just working on something for you. Just don't ask why. Just tell me your favorite color. And then, like, made it a joke. And it was a reason to call that wasn't salesy, that was a point of contact. And then they leave the conversation thinking like, oh, wow. And I could hear them. Some of them even told me, they were like, oh, well, now I'm excited. I can't wait to see what's coming. Right. Like, so now that you've left them with a positive impression, expecting something. So now you have even a level of accountability. So with it. So, but it's a good excuse to reach out to your people and get to know them a little better. Take them out to lunch, find out what's going on in their life.
There you go. So what did you give them that was customized to their favorite color?
I gave them a speaker.
Oh,
like
okay.
The pill speakers. Like, some of them were, they really liked camping. So I got them the speaker. I found out the favorite color. Some of them were, well, I'm in Philly, so we have a lot of Penn State graduates over here. So one of them likes to go to tailgates at Penn State all the time. So I got them the speaker and a Penn State colors. So with their name on it, and they were like, "This is the best thing ever!" Like super cool. I got some people liked barbecue, so I got them. This one guy Matt really likes the barbecue, so I got him a spatula. It was engraved Matt's weapon of mass destruction on it because he was so obsessed with it. He was like, "This is the coolest thing ever." Thank you. So all kinds of cool stuff.
So get to know people, understand what they're going to use on a daily basis. You mentioned earlier that you like things that are in the kitchen because presumably we're using them on a regular basis. The pillbox could be in the kitchen. It could be at the tailgate, could be camping, could be wherever. How else might we think about sort of determining the right? What are maybe just give me some examples of some other cool gifts that people might appreciate or people might be able to pull off.
So I think I know what you're trying to ask, and like try to what we call it here is the juice. So like when you gossip about somebody, you're always like, tell me the juicy information, right? So like that's what we call it is listen for the juice. So whenever a client talks, they will ultimately spill juice. They will tell you something. They will say something. A parent just died. A kid just got married. A grandkid is expected. Dog, they just got a new puppy. Whatever. That juice is always out there. The problem is too many people just wait to respond rather than listen and intake the information. So when you're listening actively, this information, I have my phone in my hand most times with my notepad open in case they say something like that. And I'm writing it down like, oh, okay, they just got a new puppy. Oh, you like Star Wars? Okay, good to know. Oh, okay, you like Lord of the Rings? Good to know. And like I'm just constantly writing these things down. So, and it doesn't take long. I mean, you can get this in a 5-minute conversation with somebody. So that's where I determine what's nice to get these people. And like even like it's like from what I see behind you, you have a bunch of books. Like I even tell people, and I haven't done this to you, so don't worry. But you could even like when you're on Zoom calls with people, you could screenshot it. What's on their shelves behind them? And like zoom in. What are they reading? What is all that stuff back there? And then look at it and find out what's going on.
That sounds like a cool project. We're gonna have to see. I haven't blown up a Zoom image like that, but I'm gonna see how good we can get just for fun. I think that's a great technique.
I've done that with people, and I have gotten some pretty cool gift ideas from that. But I haven't done it to you yet. I'll just do it now. I'm just kidding. But basically what you do is you find out what's going on. Like a friend of mine who I respect greatly, he's super into Star Wars, and like he got on the Zoom, and I looked behind him and I was like, dude, you got to tell me about that. Like what's going on with all the Star Wars stuff behind you. And whatever, for you, I would ask you, like, what are all those yellow books behind you? What the heck is all that?
So the yellow books are my National Geographic.
I had a feeling. I just didn't want to assume.
No, it's amazing how many conversations I have had because of this whole Zoom era about the National Geographics. And in fact, I used to think, gosh, I should really have one of those cool like background images, but everyone wants to talk about the National Geographic. So I leave them there. And it probably says, it lets people know more about me than having some, fancy schmancy Zoom background. Now let's talk about the Star Wars example. Let's say someone loves Star Wars, but what if you get them a gift that relates to the original trilogy and it turns out they're more of the prequel or the Disney fans, or I don't know. I assume there are some people out there who feel that way. I don't know why. But
you're almost splitting hairs because if I would feel safe getting them anything because a fan of Star Wars is a fan of everything Star Wars.
Oh, I don't know.
Now, here's the thing. Actually, that's not true, because I myself am actually not a fan of anything past episode 1. Like it's like the original trilogy and then the episode 1, 2, and 3. And then anything after that, I really don't like. So I actually totally just put my foot in my mouth. So I lied there. So, but what I would do is I would ask about it then. And that's what I did when I was on that Zoom call with that guy. I asked yo, you got to tell me more about this. What's going on? And then he started talking about it. And then he starts to tell you, okay, this guy's a Mr. Original, or he's into anything Star Wars. If it's got the logo on it, he's buying it. So that's how you would. So I'm glad you asked that, because now that, thinking about that out loud, it's definitely wrong. My initial comments are totally wrong.
So what I love about this also is whether or not you're going to buy someone a gift, just the notion of, let me think about what would be a great gift for this person is a great way. It's a great door to open to really get to know them better. and
Yeah,
to
because
ask
it's
great
it's like a
questions.
puzzle. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's like that. It's like because it makes every conversation an adventure, as opposed to like, and it allows you to listen. Because I'm like you and I, introverts, like we don't like to talk a ton. So let's get them to talk. Tell me about this Star Wars stuff. Tell me about this National Geographic stuff. What do you got going? Like, where do you like to go camping at? All this other
Right.
stuff. Like, let them spill their guts. People love to talk about themselves, and then you don't have to talk as much.
Right.
I'd rather listen. I don't want to talk to you anyway. I'd rather have you talk.
But having that notion of, I wonder what would be a great gift for this person is a great way to kind of keep peeling back the onion and avoid some of the sort of the BS, meaningless small talk that populates so much of people's conversations and really helps you get to know the person, which I think is super cool.
You never run out of questions. Like it never gets like there's no awkward silence when you're trying to find that stuff out because you're always trying to pry. Like, well, what do you do for a living?
Right.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, what's that like? Okay, oh, you're a cop. Tell me the funniest or tell me the wildest story you've ever had happen while you're on the job. Or like there's always something that's like another adventure. It's almost like reading a book.
Right.
It's like you want to turn the page. It's like let's turn the page on this guy. Okay, what's he got going? Oh, okay, you're a fireman. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Like you just want to see the next page. So it makes it fun. And you can basically do it with anybody.
So if I can recap, understand who your top referral partners are. They could be customers. They could be customers and referral partners. They could just be referral partners. You want to spend about 5 to 10% of the revenue they bring in on making them feel appreciated, and do it in a way that they are going to interact with this thing, if not on a daily basis, at least on a regular reoccurring basis. And it's got to be all about them, nothing to do with you, no logos, none of your crap. Am I following so far?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, great. Now you offer this as a service for people, because I'm guessing there's a bunch of people who are like your real estate colleagues who are like, this all sounds great, but I don't have time for this crap. Why would I have time to invest in growing my business in this way that is clearly proving to work really well for Steve? So, but the question I have is, one of the things you've talked about is how we've got to really personalize it for the individual. And if I go to you and I say, hey, Steve, send all of my people spatulas, right? Like that's going to hit 10% of them who love barbecue are going to think this is the greatest thing ever. And the other, whatever, 50% are going to be like, okay. And 10% of people are going to be like, I'm vegan. I never want to flip a beef patty or whatever. Right. Like, how do you handle that conflict between doing it as a service and really conveniently and making it ultra personalized?
Well, that's the thing. It is ultra personalized. So like if you sent me your top 25 people that bring in, your biggest earners or whatever, I would say, okay, assume you just signed on as a client. We give you what's called our systemized relationship marketing workbook. And you fill it out. It's going to have your clients, all their names, addresses, and then all of their personal information. Like, tell me about their kids. What are their hobbies? What are their pets? Do they have pets' names? What kind of pets do they have? All that stuff is filled out. And then you send it to us, and then we come up with a plan. Like, okay, look, for these 15 people, we think this is a good gift. But for these 4, this is probably going to be a better gift because it's not going to match up with what the other 15 said. And then the other 6 or 7, let's do this. Then we send it back to you. You say, yeah, looks good. Sign off on it. And then we take care of it. See you in 90 days.
Okay, perfect. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, the other thing you said is, hey, you've got to send them some kind of personal note along with this. So do you then say, okay, can you write these little thank you cards or something to go with the gifts?
Yeah. So we're going to basically put the note together. We're like, hey, this is what we're going to send. Are you okay with us sending this? Obviously, we're going to change the name. But like, hey, this is so-and-so. This is Ruben. Just wanted to let you know how awesome you are and how much I'm grateful for you in my life, or something along those lines. Signed, Ruben. And you basically will see it. You say, okay, cool. I'll go with that. Sign off. And then we'll put the handwritten notes together, put them in the gifts that are all professionally wrapped. And then when your client gets it, it shows up as this like amazing gift with a bow and a personal note and cool wrapping and everything else. And it's particularly customized to them. So that way it's a big impact that lasts.
And you can have a customized note for each person. So you can be like, hey, Steve, thanks for blah, 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 blah. I really appreciate the XYZ. Right.
Yeah. It's actually handwritten, like with a real pen, not like typed.
Right. Awesome.
Not like script font.
Well, if you're listening to this and you're like, I would like to outsource my gift giving, where can people find you?
Just send me an email. If you're trying to outsource your gifting, just send me an email, steve@appreciationadvocate.com.
All right. And I think that's pretty easy to spell, but just in case, if you're in your car or on your bike or on your run or whatever, that will obviously be in the show notes. Steve, thank you so much. I now I feel a tremendous amount of pressure to give you this really cool gift for coming on the show.
No pressure. Don't worry about it. Thank you for having me on. This is a gift enough. I appreciate it.
All right, there we go.
And
Cheers.
the drinks together. Cheers, my friend. This is the gift itself.
Thanks for listening. Drop an iTunes review or a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who would benefit from this episode, let them know about it. If you've got a friend who wouldn't benefit from this episode, but you just haven't talked to for a while, now's a great time to give them a call. Thanks for listening. Until next time.